Hi, so I may have rambled on about this before, but there is a little bit more to add. This is about dreams. So in my first book, in chapter 9, I mentioned a dream that I had in February 2007, where I asked Matt, who was a person that I worked with, actually the boss of the company, how many universes there were. It wasn't a typical topic of conversation in work, and I barely spoke to this guy other than to grumble about the working conditions. But being a dream, he replied that he was sure that there was only one universe. He then compared the universe to an American flag and pointed to a star and asked me what it represented. To which I said North Carolina, because that's what I could remember of a state in the dream. And he said, yes, each star is a state and makes up the whole. And I was still having doubts, thinking what the American flag had to do with the universe, but then I began to expand my mind and understand it a little. That expansion doesn't exist today. What I didn't look into then was like what North Carolina might mean. I just had a brief look and I can't find anything interesting. Obviously, there's a vast history, nothing leapt out at me. But there are some stars named after Caroline Herschel, Caroline's Cluster and Caroline's Rose, as well as the asteroid 281 named after her middle name Lucretia. Caroline's Cluster is in Canis Major, and the Rose, also known as the White Rose or Caroline's Haystack, is in Cassiopeia. My second book was going to start with a quote from a conversation in a dream. I have mad conversations in dreams and in waking life. If everything in this world is an illusion, is it possible that there are in fact multiple illusions? Or what do you mean? I think that was me, I'm not sure. Well, each individual using their own semantics creates their own illusion. Each operates independently of each other and works according to its own rules. I think that relates to this idea of the stars all represented different states within one whole state or universe. All that to say, I dreamt the other night that I was holding up the flag of the US, so similar to that 2007 dream, but this time it was just a piece of blue cloth where I was like, oh, here's the American flag. I was holding it up as if that was completely normal. And then after a little while I looked at it, because it takes me a while to catch on, I thought, oh, there's no stars. And I've only just realised now, talking about it, that it was just blue cloth. So the red and white stripes were gone, which I just had to Google because, forgive me, I don't know the history, represent the 13 British colonies that gained independence. And so I've just had to Google what the blue represent. I couldn't find much, but just that the colours were taken from the UK flag colours. So the blue for the UK represents the maritime history, but also specifically Scotland, the patron saint, St. Andrew. Anyway, I thought it was weird and worth mentioning. Thanks for listening.